Hey guys, this is Ina and welcome to Cashew Academy. Today we'll be creating the Squid Games intro animation from scratch. I'll show you the animation process so you can try it out for yourself. You can find the project files in the description, download them and practice these techniques. It took me several hours to animate it and the template is completely free, so I would really appreciate if you subscribe to our channel and like this video if you like my content. Okay, now let me jump to my computer and show you how to animate this. First thing that we're going to do is we are going to create the shapes. Okay, this one looks pretty good. Now let's create the triangle. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just rename these layers and I'm just going to change the color of them so it's easier for me to work. Let's change the color. I will be creating a bunch of layers during this tutorial, so I want to make sure all of the layers are corresponding to the particular part of the animation are the same color, so that way it will be easier to navigate. Okay, so I will start with this circle over here. There is a very important thing that you need to do before you start the animation. Let me show you something. Like if I open up this circle and then I scale it, do you see how the width changes with the scale? So for example, if it is this little, the stroke changes. And I don't want to change the stroke settings every time there is an animation. The good news is that you can imply an expression and you can automate this whole process and don't worry about it anymore. Just find stroke width and then hold out and click on the stopwatch so we can add an expression and then just paste this expression. The expression will be in the description below, so you can just copy and paste it. If we scale that up, the stroke remains the same, so we don't have to change the stroke width every time. We are going to do the same thing with the other shapes. This animation starts here and then it ends here and it transforms to another line. So this is exactly what we are going to do as well. Open up the circle. You can close the stroke for now and then click add and then trim paths. So add a keyframe for the end and then go here. This is where we figured our trim path animation would end. And so click 0. So let's see how that looks. Boom. Okay, so as we can see here, the animation ends here. So I'm just going to drag and drop a ruler. Keep in mind that the original animation is zooming in a little bit. So first, let's just create a line like this. And now don't forget to change the color to pink. We need to animate this line over here. The way we do that is by opening up the shape and then click add, trim paths, and animate end and start as well. Look how it stops here. So this is when the animation of like the reveal ends. And then here it starts to move the other way around. So the way we can accomplish that is by animating the start. So if we hide our reference just for a second, we can see that this animation of the start, so look what would happen when I animate the start. Yeah, so it will move the other way around. The way we ensure that the two animations connect properly would be to start exactly where the animation of the circle ends. The keyframe that we created for the start, move it about here, and then at the end of our composition, make that 100. So let's see how that looks. Boom. And now let's create another line. We want this line to start exactly where the other line ends. So like this. So I'm just going to create another circle. So the circle starts to form here. So I'm just going to click N on the keyboard. And then this animation of the line starts here. So B on the keyboard. Now first I'm going to animate the line. And I'm going to use the exact same technique. So I'm just going to click add, trim paths, animate the start and the end. And the end needs to finish here needs to start at 0. And then from here to about here, I want this to be 100. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to just hide this little layer over here. So that was the first line. We can just drag this and move it here. And so now we need to animate the circle as well. So the circle, again, we're going to use the exact same effect, trim path. We will need to adjust the offset a little bit because this animation starts from here and we actually want it to be here. So the way we fix that is by changing the offset. Move this around until you are okay. So as you can see, it's just like the animation is the other way around. The way you can fix that is by animating the start or by simply clicking on path and then clicking on this icon here. Okay, so now let's animate the second circle. So this one here, let's see how this animation looks in the original sequence title. Since the animation of the second circle is pretty much identical to the animation that we just created, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate the layers. So I'm going to click Control D to duplicate the animation. Then I'm going to bring them up here. I'm going to change the color to something else, like maybe purple, for example. And I'm going to parent all these layers to the circle. So like this. And then I'm going to click R on the keyboard to bring up rotation and change that to 180. And so now we will move it here. We'll need to adjust the path of this layer over here and make this circle start from here. But we're going to do that following the exact same things that we mentioned before by animating the path and then offsetting the trim path like so. We will now animate the triangle. Duplicate the triangle and I'm going to delete, by clicking G on the keyboard, I'm going to delete this point over here. So that way we have one line that is the bottom part of the triangle. Change the anchor point of the triangle to be here. So then I'm going to click S on the keyboard so I can bring up the scale. I'm going to adjust my guides. So this one needs to go down here. And now we need to change the position. All right, so the next shape that we are going to be animating is the square. However, as you can see in the original sequence title, the square actually divides into 4 different lines. Just create one line, move the anchor point at the center, and don't forget to copy and paste the expression. And now just duplicate it, click Ctrl D to duplicate it, click R on the keyboard, and then type 90. Okay, great. So now let me rename them. Okay, so now we will be animating this line. As you can see, it goes to the right, stops for a second, and then goes up to form the other shape. So let's adjust our grids. Open up this line here, and we will be adjusting the path. And now I would like to click G on the keyboard and bring that up until here. Like the path will start changing, and then now I will be adding the trim pad effect. So in this tutorial, as you can see, we mostly work with trim pad effect. Add the trim pad effect again, and then add the keyframe for the end. So I'll make it start here, and then by the time it gets here, it needs to be like this. So now let's adjust the timing for the other animation when the line goes up. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to do a slightly different thing. I'm going to change the position and then the stroke. So I'm going to click P on the keyboard, click U so I can see all the keyframes, and here I need it to make it go up like this. And then I will open up the stroke and I'm going to add a keyframe for the stroke width. Make it start from around here. And by this time, I want it to be like this, and I will need to change the position slightly so I can align this. Okay, so now let's animate this line. Let's first adjust our grid. So now open the path, add a keyframe, click F9 to ease it, and then add the trim pad effect, and then animate the end here. Click G on the keyboard to adjust the path. Click here so we can change the direction of the path and make this 5. So now we'll be adjusting the stroke width again. And the way we do that is by opening the stroke panel, stroke width, we will add a keyframe here, make this 110. Now it's time to animate this part right here. We will be moving just the position and trimming the path. So open up this shape, click P on your keyboard, F9 to ease it, move the keyframe, move it just a little bit like this, and then add a trim paths effect. Again, no surprise here. For the end, make it 10. In the original title sequence, it moves up just a bit. Just animate the position again, and by this time, move it here, and I'm going to create another shape. So I'm going to click G, change the stroke width. Again, I'm just going to copy the stroke from this layer and then paste it here. So it should start here. Let's add the trim path effect. Add 0 here and here, and make this 100. And for this shape, I will be working with the path only. And I'm going to open up the square. I'm just trying to show you a bunch of different techniques. You can do that with the trim pad. You can also do it with the path only. So here, what I'm going to do is just going to change it here, and then, oops, all right. So let's see. Okay, great. So there will be another line going from here to here, so we can create this cool square. Let me create another line. Click G, place a dot here, place another dot here, and I just want to make sure they connect properly. So like this, and then maybe move it down a bit. And no surprise here, we'll be adding the trim pad effects. So now we have all the shapes ready. Now let's create the other shapes. There are a few shapes that get created during the intro, like for example this one over here. Let's adjust our guides and timing. It needs to start here and end here. G, create shape. We are going to animate the trim path again. To here, we'll have this shape created. So to speed up the process, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to duplicate this shape, change the anchor point here, rotate it 90 degrees, and then move it here, and then click G on the keyboard and make it like this. And so now make it end here and make it start here. And let me just cut this on that and let's see how that looks. I'm going to follow the exact same process to create the other lines. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, so the next big thing that we need to change is to change the color of these shapes from white to light pink and then dark pink. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this color. Okay, I'm going to hide this. All right. And so all these shapes, they need to turn dark pink. So I'm going to the stroke color. Yes. Add a keyframe at the start, make it white. And then at the end, it needs to be pink. I want to show you something very cool. So if we select all the layers that need to be pink, what we can do is we can connect it to the other layer. So we don't have to copy and paste this exact keyframe every time. Okay, so for example, here, if we go to stroke color and then take this, like drag and drop this icon here. Okay, so do you see how when this changes, now this changes as well. And so we are now going to apply this to all the shapes that turn pink. We need to apply 2 more effects and we will be ready. The first effect that we need to apply will be a drop shadow. So do you see here that this layer, for example, has a drop shadow? It feels like every layer has a drop shadow. So now we will be just adding this effect. So click on the circle, for example, search for drop shadow, apply it, adjust the direction, the distance as well. and change the opacity to 15. And I'm just gonna copy this exact same process for every object. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add this cool RGB split effect. And the way we're going to do that is very easy. It won't look exactly like the original, but otherwise we'll have to spend time applying this effect everywhere. So here's what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to pre-compose my composition. I'm going to call that original. Now duplicate that and rename it red. Duplicate it again and name that blue. Duplicate that and rename that green. Okay, so bring all these channels below the original one and let me just isolate them. And now in your effects panel, search for split channels. And in the green, like apply this to the green and then turn green on, red fall off, blue fall off. Okay, just copy this effect, paste it to the blue layer and make the blue blue. Take the green from fall off, take red from fall off. The exact same thing with the red. The red keeps red, green fall off, and then blue fall off. So now we have the red. And so now, if we select these layers and move them around, you see that we have this very cool RGB split. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select these layers and click P. Let me play with them a little bit. Let me move them around. So you can play around with these keyframes and with this effect until you have something you're satisfied with. Awesome. So our intro is ready.
I wanted to remind you that my free project files are in the description, so feel free to download and use them. If you like this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much for your time and see you next week.